Previously on our journey of faith.
So I want to appreciate, I think the community will get assistance, actually medical assistance, which is one way of actually praising God, because that's the only way. Yeah. We serve God by actually doing human things in this world.
We started having services, we were coming with Reverend Meshach 5 a.m. in the morning to prepare for the service, and we had 1, 2, 3 services, and the place was becoming small. And when Bishop George saw that the place was becoming small, he started looking for land, to buy land for the church, because actually Deliverance Church by then and now was the biggest congregation that was in the city.
I was having 2 services in the morning. And then I used to do a 3rd service in the afternoon. After I've done the crusade, I invite people for the seminar for 1 week. Now those are 21 days I have been out.
Actually, very much thankful.
Yes.
For having actually played the part of role model. Bringing the gospel up to inside the prison,
yes,
and at least winning the souls of a few, like Boaz, who has actually shown the exemplary example.
Today, Deliverance Church Eldoret is a vibrant hub of faith, with thousands of members coming together to worship and grow in their spiritual journeys.
Bishop George, of course, he has been giving us books. I remember he gave me a book and he told me, I want you to read this book in 3 days. I want to see the notes. And he is a man that really wants to raise up people and has become a great role model. And of course, every other time he gives you a book, he wants you to teach that material.
Niseme ya kwamba yani mengi ya yale ambao ninafanya sasa ni kwa uzauri na msaidizi wa Bishop George, ambaye alitulea kama watoto, akatusaidia katika masauli na kutufunza. Na nilipoitwa kwenda Nyamira, ningali nilikuwa na ile that invitation from Bishop George, and it has really helped me to do the work of God and the work of ministry in Nyamira.
I joined the School of Evangelism, and we were part of the pioneers of those who did NLTC. We did up to TOT level, and from there I became a pastor. I became a pastor in Moisbridge in 1998, and the materials, the information, the teachings and the training that I received from our bishop is what has made us to be what we are today, even in Moisbridge.
Welcome back. My name is Preeti Masitsa, and in studio with me is still Bishop Dr. George Kichana.
I had seen so much what God was doing through people like Oral Roberts and T.L. Osborne. When I worked with Every Home Crusade and Wilson Mambaleo, who was the national director, and Barack Odhiambo, who has since migrated to Canada, he was the continental director. While working with Every Home Crusade, Wilson Mambaleo introduced me to the writings of Oswald J. Smith from the People's Church, Toronto, Canada. And I've been to this church in my visit in Canada, and I went to that church. I stood at that pulpit where this mighty man of God preached. And I stood there and I cried and I wept. I spent something like 2 hours in that building. I was not able to come out. Because I'd read his book, Passion for Souls, The Challenge of Missions. The man God uses. Those books left a lasting impression in my life. And of course, the writings of T.L. Osborne showing this chariot. He had written so much about evangelizing. I remember Oswald J. Smith saying, this generation can only reach this generation. And then, of course, I keenly followed what God was doing through the meetings of people like Dr. Bill Graham. Because I could see the motion pictures of how these people were attracting the masses. And to be honest with you, I prayed and I fasted that God would use me in that manner. While in Isli, a man by the name Peter Madison from Denmark, he was a missionary working with the Free Pentecostal Churches, Tanzania. And they used to live in Singida. So he decides to take me to Tanzania to go and visit. He introduced me to a man who is a great evangelist now in Tanzania, Egon Falk, from Denmark. So when I went to Tanzania, I preached in Arusha, Pentecostal church there. And the people received me so well, you know, with my evangelistic mission. Peter Madison, together with Egon Falk, we traveled a long way, cutting right across Tanzania, all the way to Singida. And that is a journey of about a whole day. The roads were not good. But I remember preaching. And this is the first time even when Egon Falk, as a person, saw demons coming out, people being delivered. I'm not saying that he had not had those experiences, but it was so dramatic and so powerful. We had a case in Singida where a woman was delivered from demonic power. And you know, the regional commissioner was in that meeting. Semeke, mwana wa Semeke. The guy was not for Christians. He was talking his own things. To me, it looked like he was an atheist or something like that. That small exposure opened up doors for me. When I came back to Kenya, the Assemblies of God, Arusha, a pastor by the name Kimaro. Kimaro called me and he said, I want you to come and do meetings for me with the Tanzania Assemblies of God. I traveled back to Tanzania. They put the meetings outside the church. They had a big church compound. So, while preaching in that meeting, somebody was brought into the meeting who had been transfused 6 times. Stood up and they got healed. They brought a child who was very sick. God healed that child. Things happened. And the next day, the compound was not able to contain the people. From there on, people in Dar es Salaam were told what God was doing. There was a group which had already started forming, and they were calling themselves Big November. So they said, can we have you come for meetings? And it will be in November. I said, yes, I will come. And when I did that meeting in Dar es Salaam, a place called Munasi Mumoja, what God did in that meeting gave me an opening that it took me 10 years consistently doing meetings in Tanzania. I traveled across Tanzania. I was in Tabora, I was in Singida, I went to Mwanza, I went to Bukoba, I was in Arusha, I was in Mosh, I was in Tanga, I was in Dodoma, I was in Iringa, that is going south. And I was headed for Kigoma, but it never came to pass. But the greatest meetings we did, which I remember remarkably where God moved powerfully.
Kuna kijana pale amesikia neno la Bwana limemgusa na kweli kabisa anaamini ni kiwete, muone anatembea kwa sababu Bwana ni mponyaji. Anatembea pale kwa sababu Bwana ni mponyaji. Kiwete huyu anayetembea. Somebody take that good photograph in the name of Jesus. Bwana ni mponyaji. Bwana ni mponyaji. Wa Tanzania mnaona nguvu za Mungu. Kijana kiwete amesikia neno la Bwana, imani yake imepanda, ameinuka, ameanza kutembea kwa sababu Bwana ni mponyaji.
Over the years, he has interacted with local faith leaders like his mentor, the late Apostle Joe Kayo,
Whoever this end will be laid upon shall receive a double portion of God's grace.
late Evans Mrima, the late Peter Karaya, Reverend Wilson Mamboleo, Reverend Dennis White, Reverend Teresia Wairimo, Bishop Wilfred Lai, Bishop Mark Kegohi, Bishop Arthur Kitonga, and many other men of God.
And then Mark introduced Alan Vincent to me. I also took a similar approach. I said, man of God, I've been to Bible college. I have some papers, you call them certificates, diplomas, degrees. But I think I would want a practical aspect of it. This is what Alan told me that day. I don't want more sons. I'm having more than enough. But can you allow me to pray about it? And then he looked at me and said, I look at you, young man. I realize there's potential in you and Mark. I would want to pour my life to you. I worked in India, that's what he told us, for 35 years. And I did terrible mistakes. I don't want you to take 35 years to learn.
On a global scale, the late Dr. Basil Tryon appointed Bishop Gishana to serve on the global apostolic team, working alongside giants of faith like Dr. M.C. Dlomo.
God ministered to me some time ago that he wants to put an apostolic team together, a global apostolic team from the nations of the world. And I want to offer, there's some people's names who are coming up in my heart. I believe that Bishop Chikana, you have the opportunity of joining this apostolic team. If you have a witness in your heart, this is also your team.
Bishop Gishana is among the founding members of Deliverance Church International, led by the General Overseer, Bishop Dr. Mark Kariuki. He serves on the Deliverance Apostolic Council as the National Treasurer.